Hello everybody, my name is attorney Sabrina Candela and today we're here to discuss about POAs for expats. In my years practicing law in Ecuador, I have witnessed expats having issues with their property, having inadequate medical care, and also having issues with their banking or their personal belongings for not having an essential one legal document. Tiny bit about me, I am an attorney for the expat community with over 5 years of experience, valedictorian of the University of Cuenca Law School with over 15 postgraduate courses. Right now I'm working as an associate attorney at the Expat Law Group. Today we're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn what is a POA, the different POAs that we have, why do you need a POA, what are the risks of not having a POA. We will also analyze some real scenarios that have affected clients by not having a POA and practical steps that you can take today to get protection for yourself. First, let's talk about what is a power of attorney in Ecuador. A power of attorney is basically a legal document that allows a third party, someone else that you choose and designate, to represent you in all the areas that you choose to include in the POAs. This could go from banking, medical decisions, financial decisions, handling or administrating your property, etc., etc. In Ecuador, we have two types of POAs. We have the general POA and the special POA. The general POA basically gives the person or tells legally, or you tell legally through this document that this person is a second you. A general POA means that this person could represent you in all areas of your life, without any particular restriction unless you specifically stated on the contract. A special POA, on the other end, just allows the person to represent you in those things that you allow in the POA. So general POA is for everything unless you make exceptions on the POA. Special POA, it's only for those authorizations that you include in the POA. What do you need to have a legal POA in Ecuador? There are some legal requirements that you will need to fulfill and that we can assist you from beginning to end. First of all, you need a legal minute that needs to be produced by an attorney. This document must be notarized in Ecuador in front of an Ecuadorian notary. You must have a translator with you. In our team, we can provide you with this certified translation. And you may face, depending on the authorizations that you include in the POA, registration requirements. This is mainly only for banks when you want to allow your POA to have access to your bank accounts and manage them. The validity periods and renewal of the POA, according to the law, it's basically unset or unlimited. This means that the POA will remain valid for the whole time until you revoke it, or you can also have a limited POA, but only if you expressly say that the POA will be only valid for either a specific amount of time or a specific number of conditions. This means that if you grant a POA today, it will remain valid during your whole life and even after it, if we include an after-death validity clause, which is also legal, unless you say that you only want it to last for 3 years or that you only want it to last until you turn 72 or until you live in the country. If that is the case and you do not include any of those specifics, the only other way to stop the validity of this POA is through an express notarial revocation. It's also very important to say that if you're an expat and you have property or matters here in Ecuador, or you're traveling as a tourist, but you don't have a cedula, you can still have a valid POA in Ecuador produced with your passport. And it will be valid also until you either revoke it or you set a specific condition or time. There are some common misconceptions of POAs. Some common wrong ideas are that you can use your US or European POA in Ecuador, which technically it's possible if it is properly apostilled and notarized, but if the content itself of the minute for the POA does not match Ecuadorian law, your US or European POA will not have a practical impact or legal use here in the country. One other very common mistake is thinking that you don't need a POA because you can handle everything yourself when you're in Ecuador. But the POA covers and protects you for those things that we don't want to happen to us. For example, an emergency trip, a physical or mental incapacity, maybe an illness, or just any type of issue that you may have that does not allow you to make your own decisions or take care of your own business. So the POA is exactly what you want to have peace of mind knowing that you're protected if anything happens to you. One other common mistake is thinking that the POA is too expensive or complicated, when the truth is we have POAs started at $120, including even the legal fees and the translation fees. Also, the process is very simple. If you hire us to do the POA, we will have a meeting in which you tell us your wishes. We will advise you in what clauses you need or not need, what type of POA you need. We produce the POA to you, you review it from the comfort of your home, and then you come with us to the notary only one time, and that's all we need for having a valid POA. So right now you may be asking yourself, do I really need a POA? Let's go over some examples in which a POA could protect you, and you will make this decision for yourself at the end. As a general rule, let's understand that a POA will protect you in 3 main cases. When you become physically or mentally incapacitated, so you cannot make decisions or do things for yourself. Number 2, when you are not in the country. Or number 3, when for any reason that it's not one of the 2 first, you are just unable of making or doing something or making decisions for you. Departing from this principle, I want to walk you through the most important principal areas in which the protection of a POA could really be a lifesaver. First of all, banking. Let's imagine that you need to access money to taking care of yourself or your personal matters, but you can do it for yourself. Through a POA, we could authorize someone to do everything with your bank account. Either accessing the money, pre-canceling CDs, setting new savings, setting wires, closing accounts, etc. Healthcare and medical decisions, deciding over treatments, accepting or denying certain types of medicine or interventions or surgeries, deciding about assisted death or euthanasia, making decisions on life support, what to do if you become brain death, and others. Insurance claims. You know that if you have private insurance and you claim for reimbursement or authorization, you would need the signature of the holder of the insurance contract. If you are not in capacity of doing this, the POA will assure the coverage that you need from your insurance. Asset administration. You are a tenant or a landlord and you need representation on the lease agreement, permissions, repairs, getting back your security deposits, and everything related to having or renting a property. A POA could help you to manage everything from taxes to lease agreement issues, repairs, inspections, etc. Asset disposition, either buying or selling property in the country. Corpse disposition, with a clause of after-death validity. If you don't have family in the country, the corpse disposition will allow someone else to make the decision of being cremated, buried, the burial wishes, or whatever you have decided or wished to happen to you after you pass away. Public institution representation, for example, if you pass away without family in the country, you will need someone to do the affidavit for proceeding with the cremation or with the burial, which is a legal requirement, registering your death, obtaining your death certificate, notifying your embassy of your home country, etc. The POA would do this for you and protect you even after you pass away. Public institution representation. For example, if you own property in the country, you will need to pay the taxes, you will need permissions if you are renting it in front of the municipality. Maybe if you want to fix something in the house, you need permissions for this too. Permissions at the property registry, at the civil registry, like the example I have provided if you pass away. And even if you don't have any property in the country, you will still need to deal with public institutions, such as notaries, for doing contracts, such as the Ministry of International Affairs for visa, etc. The public institution representation will allow a POA to take care of all the legal matters that in any way involve the government and that you need to protect yourself or your property. If we're more specific about immigration, the class of immigration representation will allow the POA to do everything that it's needed to protect your legal status in the country, such as renewing or transferring visas, renewing cedulas, getting all the requirements needed for the case, obtaining your immigration movements, etc. Another very useful class is the class that allows your POA to delegate the capacities that you have provided to someone else in case you want or you need further assistance, for example, for an attorney for legal representation in front of claims or courthouse. Another important clause is the lease agreement representation. This could help you if you're either the landlord or the tenant. If you're the landlord, a lease agreement representation will allow the POA to take care of all the difficulties culturally speaking or talking about the language, but also legally involved in leasing your property. Getting permissions, dealing with the tenant, making the inspections, doing repairs, represent you in reviewing the lease agreement, etc. But if you are the tenant, this clause will also help you a lot to deal with your landlord, make sure your rights are protected, but also if for some reason you become incapacitated, this will allow someone to enforce your rights as a tenant. For example, accessing the property if you are in the hospital or you have an emergency and your personal belongings need to be subtracted from the property, or we need to get important documents, or anything that needs to be done with all your personal assets inside the house, or even getting back your security deposit if you need to leave the house under emergent or emergencies or any bad circumstances, this lease agreement clause will allow that someone can protect your rights, your personal rights as a tenant, but also all your personal belongings inside the house. For example, we have had some horror cases with this client, Jane Doe, who rented a property and had all her personal belongings inside of an apartment. She had a car accident that left her very seriously ill for over 3 months. She had to end this lease agreement and of course get all of her personal belongings for saving money, but also because she needed some specialized medical care. Thanks to the fact that she had a POA, her attorney-in-law had the ability to access into the property, obtain all her personal belongings, and the lease agreement, and even get the security deposit back. The number of money, trouble, and issues that having a POA saved to this client is an example of how the POA can protect you. But let's discuss this same client's case from the point of view of healthcare. Through this accident, she was unconscious for over 2 weeks, in which surgeries needed to be performed. She had specific wishes such as rejecting certain type of medicines, no blood transfusions, and not getting any palliative care if she became brain dead. The POA not only assured that the medical decisions were taken for her according to her wishes in the right time, efficiently, and making sure that her dignity and her wishes were not violated, but also assured that all of the medical treatment preserved her health and wishes. In this same example, she also needed to have coverage from this accident from her insurance company. Thanks to the fact that she had this complete POA, also this person that was representing her through the POA was able to perform and to complete all the insurance claim and assure that her medical expenses were fully covered. If we analyze this experience from a broad perspective, we can see how this POA protected her on her lease agreement, assuring that she didn't have to keep paying for a property that she was not using, assuring that this person could access and protect her personal belongings and even get the security deposit back, assure her that her medical decisions and her health was fully protected, taken care of, and respected, and also allowed her to save an immense amount of money through proceeding properly in front of her insurance. Let's discuss a second example. John Doe. He is a person that has 3 properties in Ecuador. Her son in the United States had a medical emergency and he had to leave for a long period of time. Thanks to having a POA in place and in order for asset administration, the attorney, in fact, here in Ecuador could assure that his property was protected, that he didn't become liable for not paying taxes as this was taken care of by the POA, and allowing that he didn't lose money by being able to rent the property and also make sure that the tenant was a person of integrity, making sure that the contract had the right clauses, making sure that everything was in place with the administrator of the building, and in general, taking care of the assets of my client, John Doe. I think those two examples are very good ways to demonstrate how the POA can protect you personally in your integrity, but also your property. Another very important example or a good illustrative case that I had is one for banking. I had a client that had an accident, and he, in this case, was physically and mentally able of making the medical decisions for himself, but he couldn't walk and go to the bank to pre-cancel a CD that he did not want to roll over and also access the money to pay for medical bills. Thanks to the fact that he had a POA, a person could do this for him, assuring full financial security. It's important for you to know that with the POA, we cover you and your assets and all your legal and personal matters while you are alive, but also the most important afterlife issues regarding your legal status, registration of your death, and burial wishes once you pass away if we have an after-death validity clause. Also, it's very important for you to know that if you are reluctant of having a POA and obtaining all the protection that it leads to because you don't trust someone enough to be able to do all those things for you unless you really need it, we can include conditions in the POA. For example, we could either give free representation to your POA, or we could say that the POA can only be enforced upon demonstrating that you are physically or mentally incapacitated for carrying those issues or those matters for you. If you feel that you deserve this protection, let me tell you the steps that we will need to take to get you a POA and obtain full protection to you and your assets. Number one, we will have a consultation in which we discuss your personal and particular needs. We have a free 15-minute consultation to go over this, and if more time is needed, we can go to a regular consultation. We prepare the minute according to your wishes after giving you proper advice of what clauses you need and not need. You review the minute, and then we take this minute to the notary for notarization. You will be accompanied by a proper certified translation. And later, if you have a banking representation clause, we will register this in the bank. So you right now make sure that the POA is in order and in place with your bank. So when the emergency comes, you are warranted to be protected. If you feel that you are ready to move forward with the POA, it's time for you to start thinking who you want as the attorney-in-law or this person that will represent you or so-called POA. Do not hesitate to contact us if you have any further questions or concerns. We are here ready to protect you. Are you ready too?